2025 is more of a year of action. Um, Not just word service. I'm sorry, I pulled my mic away from my mouth. But when I'm looking at 2025, I'm looking at output results, and it's not that I'm looking to build transactional relationships, but it's focusing on, and we can get into the Bible, but the Bible talks about, I can tell your character by looking at the fruit that your tree bears, right? So you know a lot of times we fixate on people saying, "Oh yeah, dude, I just want to see you succeed." "Oh, I just want to help. How can I help you?" Or they say things that sound good, but then when you actually look at the output and you look at what they actually provide or bring to the table, and it's like, "Yeah, dude, I want to help. How can I help? I just want to help you." And then you do an event, and then like they're not there, or you're looking for help with something and they're not there, and so I'm more about action, and I'm more about output, you
Mm-hmm.
know so but for 2025, that's what I'm focusing on, is not what you say, what do you do? And it doesn't always have to be transactional, but if I call you 4, 5, 6 times over the course of however many weeks, and you don't answer, you don't get back to me, you don't circle back around, but then all of a sudden you call me and it's like, "Oh, hey, hi, yeah, how you been? Hey, do you still talk to?" And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, lead connection, whatever. "Hey, can you do something for it?" That's something I'm trying to cut out, and it's about the output and action, not just what people say that sounds good.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's to me, that's the biggest challenge with, networks. Everybody wants to pick your brain. Everybody wants to get the freebie. Everybody wants to get something. And when it's time sometimes for everybody to kind of come together, and I had some folks tell me a couple weeks ago that they wanted to start something in Pigeon Forge in the Smokies. And I was like, okay, well, let's do a meeting. We had a meeting place set up. We had everything going, and three people basically said, "I can't make it. I'm too busy." And I'm like, well, okay, so either you do or you don't, because I don't have time for people that,
We had the guy, was it IHOP that time?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
we were sitting there talking business,
Mhm,
planning the first
mhm,
event, and talking big dream, whatever. And this guy walked by and was like, "Hey, dude, I couldn't help it over here, and like, do you guys do business?" And he was like all into it, and we're like, "Yeah, he does property management and real estate and all this stuff." And then I do branding and marketing and whatever. And the guy's like, "Well, yeah, well, how can I get?" He was like said all the right stuff.
mhm,
What'd you tell him? "Hey, we're gonna have a free networking event. Da
mhm.
da 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 da. Come meet us over here. Love to chat with you. Blah blah blah. Whatever." Dude never showed up,
No, he did.
and you know,
That's how you find if people are for real or not, because everybody can talk. I've heard so many people say so many things over my span of my career. I used to have guys all the time around me that's all they want to do is talk. And for me, talk is cheap anymore. I don't have time for a lot of talk. You and I are friends; we talk all the time. But there's a
yeah,
certain side to that, though. Is just people just in a positive network environment. Basically, your network becomes your net worth. And so if you're hanging out with people that are making you know uh, minimum wage, nothing wrong with making minimum wage. I'm not judging anyone because I've made minimum wage. It's not been very long ago when I was making you know a low amount of money doing some things just to get my company started. So I'm not crapping on that, but the people I was hanging around with at the time were multimillionaires. I was hanging out with people that have it figured out. And so, I think sometimes, when we're trying to get that positive network around us, we got to be careful because when you see someone that kind of sneaks in and they start causing dissension
How
and
can I
distraction.
help? I
Yeah,
just
how
want
can
to
I
help
help?
you, you know.
Yeah, and
Yep.
a lot of times I always say they want to borrow your shine, but they want it to be like a candle. They want to take your light and run with it. I think the best people that light this world are people who are candles that share with others and share that light with others. And there's so many people out there that want to take your light and then snuff you out in the process. So be careful. There's those kind of folks out there. So let's move forward a little bit. Comparison is the thief of joy. I think social media in itself is probably one of the biggest ways. We used to watch, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous and that sort of thing back in the day, and we would compare ourselves to, the guy who owns the yacht and drives the Lamborghini. Well, now everybody's faking that on social media. Not everybody, but
A lot
probably
of it, yeah.
90% of the people in this world are faking that. And I think we get so caught up in the big house, the big car, all this stuff. And then what happens is that we end up being let down by that. And we start thinking, well, if I can't have that big car, like my son and I were talking today, he came to the house and he helped me install a thermostat on our house. And, he came and my wife, or I can't remember, someone asked him, said, hey, if you could get another car in the future, what would it be? And he's like, well, I want an F-350. Well, he drives a very nice vehicle that we helped him get, but he has a dream for that. But he's not out there comparing himself to every other guy driving the F-350 around. He's working. He's got his head down. He's doing what it takes to do that. And so
There's a difference between a dream and an obsession. I think when
exactly, yeah,
you start obsessing over it
right.
and coveting it, and you're just consumed with what everyone else has, I think that's where it eats you alive, you know?
90% of the rich people that I've met, once they get wealthy, I use the word rich, I would say wealthy, because there's a lot of people that are rich. They're the true people that are wealthy. Most of them are not interested in any of that stuff. As a matter of fact, I know real estate agents right now. It's funny because I'm kindred spirits with a lot of my real estate agent friends that drive. You got people that roll up in their nice vehicles, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not me. I mean, if I ever buy a nice car, people are probably going to laugh. But I drive, the mom cruiser, the full football cruiser, and
Yeah.
I don't have any desire to go out and buy, a $70,000 or $80,000 truck or vehicle right now. I just don't have a desire. I have too many other things I want to do in my life. So why would I be jealous of someone who has that? Why would I be jealous of someone who's can afford it and wants it? If that's their dream and that's their love and that's their passion, then more power to them. But I feel like so many times our joy is stolen from us because, we can't be as pretty as the supermodel. We can't be as sexy as the sexiest man alive. We can't, have the big house and the nice cars and things. And it just eventually gets on the inside of you, because I think joy is a different word than happiness. There's some deep seated thing with joy. And I think our joy is what drives us. And, Matthew McConaughey talks about the joy in the journey. And like most people are always trying to live for tomorrow and live for, hey, when I get this, I'll be happy. Or when I get this, I'll be joyous and this will make me so happy. But what most people find is, if you're truly people that level up like you and I are, when we want to level up, at some point you have to just get the joy from the journey. And it isn't about comparing yourself to other people.
Right.
I'm going to move a little forward on this a little bit because I want to make sure we can cover as most of these we can. Courage in facing the battle. The biggest thing that I find in so many people's lives, and it's one of the first things I learned when I was learning the sales processes in life, is most people are buying on emotion, and you have to address their fears and their frustrations. You address their fears and make sure that you give them the comfort to make the right decision and engage them to the point where they will make a decision even in the midst of that fear. And then on the frustration side, you have to be a problem solver. And so when I'm looking at this, it's like so many times we will let the fear, we'll let the frustrations, we'll let the things that will hold us back keep us from being our true selves. And so many times I'm often going back to the times in my life when I didn't do anything is when I was in fear or I was mad. What did you say to me
Mhm.
about what anger is? What's that? That was a cool
Oh,
thing
yeah.
you brought up.
The
I
guy
mean, I think
guy
frustration is anger, in a way.
guy told me, yesterday that I was talking to, he said, um, he said, "Anger is how men cry," and basically, like he said that when I forgot how it was he put it. I'm going to probably butcher it, but he basically said women are better at communicating their emotions.
Hmm.
Men are terrible at communicating emotions, but women are a lot better about communicating their emotions because they're able to communicate. They they are able to communicate, get the emotions out, and then just basically, become emotional after that. So they're
Hmm.
able to cry or, kind of like have an emotional moment because they're able to explain what's going on. Men, we can't do that. We can't explain with our words what's going on. So often, when women become overwhelmed, they're able to let their emotions out and vent, they're able to cry. Well, men, we just can't do that. So
Hmm.
when we get overwhelmed, we just get mad and angry. And that's why sometimes when we're mad and we don't understand why we're so mad, but we're just like, oh, and punching stuff, anger is how men cry,
Hmm.
and I was like that. I was like, man, that's such a good point.
And when you're a man, you're growing up, everybody tells you not to cry.
Yeah.
Everybody tells you to hide your emotions and they tell you just to go on. And I think the new album out by Dax, the rapper dude, that he just put out a whole album about men. And he put out this whole album about how men feel, how men operate. I didn't want to take this down the road today. We had the girl power on there one day, but one of our episodes a couple of weeks ago. But I mean, I feel like so many times, it's like when we are afraid or when we're frustrated or when we're angry, then we ultimately become, you know, we become, in a situation where it takes a whole lot more courage, I think, sometimes for men to do things and be a man than it does to sit back and be like, I'm just going to kind of let this happen to me and not for me. And so what I found is that courage allows me to see life happening for me, because there's so many times in my life where I'm like, man, I mean, that's a lot of money to spend for something that I have no idea if I'm going to get any return on it. There's
Mhm.
times in my business, in my career, where I'm like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to make it for the next 2 to 3 months. It's slow right now. I'll give a really good example. This time last year, or December of 2023, my bank account for my business was much smaller than it is now. But now, because when you level up, you get this other sense of urgency and fear that, okay, I got more expenses this year. I got more things going on. The bookings aren't coming in like I want them to. I got a couple of real estate. I got these things going on. I know it's going to be fine, but somewhere in the back of my mind, you know, I could let that beat me and defeat me and keep me set back. It's like I talk about all the time. People are playing with monopoly money when it's your money. You know what I'm saying? They'll
Mhm.
they'll actually tell you all these cool things and all these great ideas, and all these people always trying to sell you something, and they're always trying to come in there. Where the courage comes in is to being able to say no. And the courage is also in sometimes when you're in that situation, the battle of the mind, the battle of the wills, the battle of your emotions, sometimes it takes courage to actually just admit that, you know, I'm just not ready for that right now, which is going to lead
Mhm.
me to the next one. I feel like we can spend hours and hours on this next one. Um,
Yeah.
Opportunity or distraction. Um, I don't remember if I said that first or you said it first. We were just talking one day,
I
but
think that was your thing.
yeah, but what's funny is at one point I heard you say my words back to me
Oh
one day
yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was talking
Well,
about all this
there's
stuff.
one time.
Great
Yeah,
idea.
you're well there. Yeah, there's one time you were going through a situation where it was like it was a deal and it was a business agreement, business arrangement, and it was like just ping pong. Um, you would propose something and then it would come back and it was just like back and forth. And, you know, you got into this like vested competition where you were just like, I need this, like I really, this needs to go this way. And then you're getting frustrated. And after a while, I basically asked you, I was like, look, man, at what point do you step back and analyze and say, okay, is this an opportunity or is this a distraction? Like, is this ever going to go the way you want it to go? If not, then at what point is this like a competition where,
Mhm. Right.
whatever, if it's not going to be an opportunity, a
Right.
reliable opportunity to invest
Exactly.
in, then like maybe it's, and I basically said, I don't need you to give me an answer. I just need you to think about it. And
Mhm.
then once you thought about it, you come back, you're like, honestly, I'm wasting my time because even if this plays all the way out, it's still not going to go the way I want it to go,
Exactly.
and so after that, you kind of squashed it. But yeah, like we say that all the time.
Mhm.
I'll say, well, dude, this, this thing popped up and it's gonna net me this much if you whatever. Was that an opportunity or distraction? Well, it actually could be a good opportunity. Is it reliable?
Mhm.
You know?
Exactly. Is it gonna
So,
be something that's a good investment of your time,
yeah,
energy, and resources? And I always
yeah,
talk about that, time away from your family, time away from your the stuff you're really supposed to be doing, time away from even fishing and doing your hobbies. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, the feeding the fruits of the spirit thing. It's just so many times I feel like it's like Cindy Hewitt, my friend, said the other day when I was doing my live and talking a little bit about this. She was like, "Squirrel, if you've ever seen that movie, Disney movie, it's like you
mhm,
can't focus on things if you're always chasing rabbits, you're always chasing a squirrel, or you can't keep up with it." I've I think you and I have both used this same analogy before. It's like when you're going on a trip, and if you're driving I-75, let's say down to Florida, you and I both made that trip, several times, many times. But let's say we get off of the first exit and we're at that exit. We know we're supposed to be in Florida and we got a
mhm,
timeline we want to be in Florida, but we stop at 25 or 30 exits on the way down for no reason other than, hey, there's something cool. You got a place down in South Georgia you like to stop at all the time.
mhm,
But you can't stop at every exit. You've got to plan and say, okay, there's going to be certain times where, yeah, I love every Bucky's on the way somewhere, but I can't stop at every Bucky's, and it's the
yeah,
same in our lives. Um, I was on a phone call the other day with CEOs from a company in Croatia. Okay. And I'm asking myself, is this an opportunity or is this a distraction? The opportunity looks really good. But how much time and energy is it going to take? How much of it's going to be a distraction to what I'm already working on? If it fits with what I'm already doing, then I'm going to be okay with it. But if it's something I'm going to have to work around and build around and create something else that I've got to spend another 10 hours or 15 hours a month on it, I just can't see me doing the rest of it. But if
yeah,
there's something where he and I or the guys and I can meet in the middle on it and actually make this happen, it absolutely helps me to grow my business. So, that's something, that when we're looking at opportunities, I mean, we've got to really truly look and see how much it helps us grow and how much it, adds to us. I mean, you and I get people coming to us all the time. I mean, just earlier as we were talking about it, you got people
mhm,
all the time. Once they find out you're a branding and marketing guy, once they find out you can help them produce their podcast, once they find out that you've got all these skills, then
yep,
they'll come to you. And the thing
yeah,
about it is I've known you so long that it's like, well, of course he can. I know he can. And I've even said to you in the last couple of weeks, you don't need all these folks. And that's not me discounting
mhm,
anybody around you. You don't need me. In essence, I don't need you. But there's a certain side to this. It's like, you know, we've got to learn. And it's the hardest thing for me and you both because we have so many opportunities come our way. I mean, there's people all the time looking for us and looking for our services that we got to decide, okay, am I going to invest in this or am I going to just let it go? Or maybe we refer it to somebody else or we find a way to maybe say, hey, not now, but maybe in the future, call me back when this is a better opportunity.
yeah.
Okay, moving forward, you're not alone. I mean, that one right there. Do you ever feel isolation? I'll ask you first because I've been talking.
I think everybody feels isolated at some point, and it's one of those things. You're only isolated until you talk to someone, whether it's friend, trusted advisor,
Hmm.
um, professional. For some reason, we think that like confiding in people and talking about stuff somehow we failed,
Hmm.
and it's not really the case. But like, you're only alone until you reach out and talk to someone. And so I think all the people that I talk to, especially with guys, one thing that seems to keep reoccurring is like, "Oh, wow, I kinda thought I was the only one that dealt with that," or, "Oh, I thought I was the only one that thought that," or, "Oh, I'm, the only one
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start talking to people, it's just like we talked about with COVID, back when COVID hit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you watch TV, it's like, oh, like if you walk outside, sky's falling and there's zombies walking around and like, whatever, somebody's gonna come in and, like, oh, all this bad stuff's happening or whatever, you know. Um, there's all this, the stores are getting looted and whatever, and then you walk outside and everybody's just normal,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and it's like, oh, well, and so, but yeah, no, I think everybody feels isolated. I think people feel like isolated in their business. Oh, I started a small business. Other people are more successful. Why am I so bad at this? I'm terrible. Everybody says I need to stop, whatever. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody feels
Mm-hmm.
isolation.
Yeah, I feel
You know?
like we feel like we're alone sometimes. I think that's when we feel so overwhelmed by everything, is where we almost feel like we're the only people going through what we're going through. I mean, the thing is I think everybody has mental, spiritual, physical, business, life struggles, relationship struggles. And the thing about it is we feel like sometimes we're the only person that's going through that, and we're really not.
Mhm.
And I think what's great about it is that I think that the connection heals. And that's the problem, is a lot of times we get alone and we want to have a pity party, or we want to talk about, we our self-talk is so terrible. I may have shared this story before, but we were at the beach one time a couple of years ago, me and my wife, and I basically thought I had lost the keys to the van, and I thought I'd lost my wallet and some other stuff. And I carry around some pretty valuable credit cards and things in my wallet, and I just was at the moment, I was just truly in panic. Well, she went to the room to do a little research and look, and it was a very small room we were staying in because it was a temporary thing to get us to the next day. I'm out walking along the beach, and here in my head, I'm thinking, well, it probably washed out to shore. Somebody picked it up. I'll never see it again or whatever. And I just had such a negative feeling alone. And I'm in paradise, man. I'm in one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And I'm walking down there, and I'm talking to myself saying, well, she should probably just divorce me, because and I don't know where this came from. It was almost like this past person that I had in me a long, long time ago came back for just a minute. And I was like feeling isolated. I was feeling alone. And
Anger is how men cry.
exactly. And so at some point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go look at my suitcase, because because I had on these bigger shorts. I'd have driven in because I like to wear, like, big gym shorts. You wear them too, you know what I'm talking about. And I
Yeah.
like to just be comfortable when I'm driving. And so here I go into the room, and I open the suitcase and look in the front pocket. There they are, laying right there. And so all this negativity, all this feeling of loneliness, inadequacy, just feeling overwhelmed and frustrated over keys and a wallet. Every bit of that's replaceable. But here I had worked in, my relationship, and I don't know, man. It was just one of those moments for me. So whatever you gain from that, if you're a listener, whatever you gain from that, I don't know. But, so even the best of us, the people who seem to be positive, and like I always say, people want to put their highlight reels out on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, and they always want everybody to see the best side of us. The people that are with us every day and know us every day know how we really are. And sometimes when I'm alone, I'll pick up the phone and call somebody I haven't talked to in a while. And I'll say sometimes when I'm feeling bad, I'll go to lunch with somebody they just have terrible they have terrible lives in
Yeah.
their own minds. And it's like, man, I ain't got it so bad. So for me, it's like you sometimes just have to say to yourself, I'm not alone. I really truly have a lot of people around me who love me and care about me. And that's the problem is most of the time we don't want to think that. We don't want to think I can reach out and get help from somebody else. So I always say, self-care is not selfish. Sometimes in our lives, we can't be selfish with our own time, with our own resources, with our own families, and the things that we have. So if you're ever feeling alone, feeling inadequate, and you're feeling, overwhelmed, sometimes, like you say, tomorrow, you might just go do your recharge moment. And I think that's important, because sometimes being alone is a good thing when you're focusing on the good things. So I wouldn't
Speaking of
always think alone.
recharge,
Yeah, you got to get
that leads
recharged.
straight into the perfect one, the next one.
Yep, exactly. So you just got to go recharge when you're overwhelmed sometimes. You're not going to need to, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Sometimes I'll take a pen and a paper or a good book. You take your Bible, I take my, we go and sit down somewhere and we just think. And you know what's funny sometimes for me? I have done this in the last couple of weeks. I'll actually, if I'm at home or I'm somewhere, I'll just like take my phone because my phone goes off all the time. I'm looking at it right now, sitting beside me. It is going off. Okay. And it's usually a problem. It's never anybody smiling and saying, "Hey, I love you. You're a great guy, Vernon." It's always that person that is mad about something at a property or any number of things going on. And sometimes I just want to take that and I put it aside and I'll take every other distraction that I have around me. And so when I'm feeling overwhelmed for just a minute, I will sit down in either my chair or I'll just sit down and I'll just turn the rest of the world off and just get away from everything and everybody. And sometimes that's all I need to recharge and to just, get that feeling of overwhelmness out of me. What do
Yeah.
you do when you're going through that?
Uh, for me, I mean, it varies. Like for me, when I truly feel like overwhelmed, like I don't have, coming home is not always like the oasis that it should be.
Exactly.
Um, like because I got a newborn, I got a 5-year-old, and then it's like my dogs want me to take him out. My newborn smiling and giggling, want me to pick her up. My 5-year-old, she's wanting to play. Mama's wanting to tell me about her day and talk to an adult. That's not under like 2 foot or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm wanting to just come in and unplug everything. I've not been, at work. Sometimes it's like a blur. I'm not always on my phone or don't have time to check the news or just scroll. And it's like literally, my phone's ringing off the hook all day. Work's crazy. I've got 4 to 5, 6, managers, whatever. All this stuff's going on. I just want to come in and completely unplug. But for me, how I really unplug and recharge is like you said, I go sit by myself, nobody around, and just kind of reflect, and but I also like to get out of the house and go do stuff with family, friends. It could be as simple as just, you know watching a movie that I've seen 1,000 times, but when I see that movie, even though I've seen it 1,000 times, it kind of puts me back in like just a headspace, and so
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like for me, just I mean, and honestly, it's weird because if you're like me, it's hard being like an entrepreneur or business minded, because if I don't jump into my work, my anxiety builds up. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
all I can sit there and think about is the 10,000 things I need to do, and when I'm not working on them, it just kind of that pressure's like, oh, I got so much stuff that I need to do. Um, but yeah, just for me, it's my me time, and then once I get my me time, when I come back, I'm refreshed and recharged, and I can be a better husband, better father, got more energy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But just that alone time.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the thing. The other day I was feeling overwhelmed and I told my wife, I said, and I always tell myself this all the time, I'm never going to get it all done. So why do I stress about it? There's things that have to be left undone, and there's things that you can put off till tomorrow or whenever. And so she told me the other day, she goes, well, if you'll make a checklist and sit down, I love it. My wife's always got some good wisdom sometimes. And she'll just say, hey, just make your checklist and see. She said, I had that feeling the other day and I made a list and it really wasn't as bad as I thought. And I'm like, that's a good point, Mama. So I
Hmm.
was really excited that she said that to me. I'm going to kind of wrap the next two into one because I feel like they kind of overlap a little bit. Help
Yeah.
others with humility and kindness and feed the fruits of the spirit. I basically had made a statement in my post about how confidence is empowering, arrogance is isolating. And that goes back to sometimes I think we're alone because we can be a little bit of a jerk and, our arrogance kind of takes over. And sometimes people just
Hmm.
don't want to be around us. But I think sometimes we exude a certain amount of confidence that we have to remember, though, we got to stay humble. Tim McGraw said, always be humble and kind. I love that
Hmm.
song. And it's just one of those songs that just has to remind you that, no matter what you've done, if you've got a portfolio of, 200 houses and you're living in the house you want to live in, going on vacation, all you want to do, your father of the year and your wife loves you and your husband of the year and, everything is going great. At some point, you want to have a certain amount of confidence in that, but you also want to not be arrogant about it, and you don't want to be judging others and putting others down all the time. So I think sometimes that one is something we really need to focus on as business owners and business leaders, is always making sure that we're humble and kind, even in some of the nastiest, dirtiest, meanest situations I've had in the last year. Every time I can say where in the past I would have been a different dude. In my 20s and 30s, I would have been a completely different dude. But the older I get, the more I'm finding is that sometimes life works itself out, and people have to come back to you, or people have to still talk to you. And so you have to make sure that if you're going to burn a bridge, I say if you're going to burn a bridge, scorch it. But if you're going to try to have to cross back over that bridge, or you're going to have to try to, you know, do things in the future, maybe that you're going to have to actually still be friends with people, or still at least talk to those people, or have some sort of relationship with people. The thing about the East Tennessee area, and it may be this way all over the world, but it's a very small community where we live. I mean, everybody knows everybody in my business. And if you screw somebody over, somebody's going to know it. And eventually somebody's going to say, don't deal with that guy, because that guy's a butthole. That guy is not who he says he is. And I don't ever want anybody to be able to say that about me. If you
Right.
practice it and preach it, if you preach it, you need to practice it. So that being said, I think that we've got to just learn that our, our attitude is part of that. And I think that comes from those fruits of the spirit. And I'm going to kind of pitch this one to you a little bit, because I mean, you know where this comes from. It comes from the Bible. It comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. It's basically the love chapter. Again, we're not preaching, but I mean, when you're talking about being uh, loving, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control, I mean, to me, that's what business should be built upon. Because there's enough people out there that are not doing it. They're doing it out of hate. They are, jealous of other people. They're just not very peaceful to be around. And so,
Mm-hmm.
in your mindset, what does that mean to you? Because I really want to get your take on this, because I know what it means to me, and a lot of people have heard me talk about it. But when you're trying to cultivate the fruits of the spirit in your life, I mean, what does that mean to you to be more loving and that sort of thing?
Well, for me, from a biblical standpoint, the fruits of the spirit is the result of getting closer to God, which every religion has some form of that, but like you know I think it's something that you can strive for, it's something that you can work for, it's something that you can build towards, but like ultimately to have like the fruits of the spirit, you you know to you can try to be kind, or you can seek opportunities to be kind. You can quote unquote try to be patient, or you can take opportunities to be patient. It's something that you can work on, it's something you can strive for, but it's not something you can fake. And so, like for me, if I say I want to be more loving and I produce a bunch of videos and content about how loving I am, but then I kick a homeless person in the leg and tell them to move out of the middle of the street because I'm walking or whatever. I think you're only as kind and patient and loving and whatever as your lowest moment. And so it's what do you do when people's not around and the camera's not rolling and you don't have your phone, whatever. I mean, if you want to be loving and giving, if you give, a homeless person a sandwich and and some money and a new shirt, is that awesome? Yeah. If you got your phone holding up doing the selfie cam when you're doing it, is that awesome? No. So I think if you want to be loving, kind, patient, gentle, all these things sound great, but you have to seek the opportunities to be patient, kind, loving, gentle, and you have to act on those opportunities properly, because you can't fake being loving or kind or generous. You
Mm-hmm.
either are or you're not. And
Right.
so like you said, so I think the keys are actually striving to be that person when no one's around, no one's looking, and be the same person in every room you walk in. So, but yeah, like for me, it's just it's an outpouring of what's actually on the inside. I mean, I've seen you do kind things that no one else has ever seen the light of day of. Um,
and vice versa.
I've been on the phone with you before when somebody's broke down on the side of the road and you're like, "Hey man, you good? You need some water?" Like whatever. There's just things that and who knows, maybe those will come to light sometimes, and
Mhm.
sometimes they won't. But I
Right.
think whether you believe in God, karma, chakras, balance, whatever you believe in, I think there's something to you get back what you put into.
Right. Yeah, we've always said, like I told you today, I said, let me just put this out there and let's see how the universe handles this.
Mhm.
How's this going to go? I mean, we've always said when we have good business ideas, we put them out there, and some next thing we know, we see somebody using a phrase or whatever. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, pretty much what you put out of yourselves, and I think a lot of it is internal. And the thing is that I've said it a million times: hurt people hurt people. And when you're trying to be in business and you're trying to be an influencer and you're trying to be a coach and a consultant and be people, be somebody that can be a trusted advisor, you're going to screw up. So I think there's
Mhm.
another part to this is that you're going to mess up. There's going to be a time where you might make a mistake. I mean, this past summer, my grandmother passed away. My son's getting surgery. There's a lot of crap going on. Had a couple things kind of fall through the cracks. I had a little bit of a, just it was just you were my friend during that time. I mean, there was maybe 5 people that really knew the struggle that I was going through internally and externally. And I was really just in a moment or two of weaknesses. Things happened, but what I did was, even in the midst of that, I did the right thing, because there's so many times I think in this world where when we talk about being patient and kind and gentle, we're going to get an opportunity. It'll be reliable and it'll be an opportunity to invest in ourselves to be those people. I mean, it's funny. I'm just throwing that around
Yeah.
there. It's kind of silly, but what I'm saying is, in the bigger picture, in the bigger scheme of things, I feel like if it's not inside of you, you can't, it's not something you can just, it doesn't, whatever's inside of us is what it exudes, out of us, and what goes out into the universe and into the world. And people pick up on it in a hurry. People know if you're fake or not. People know
Mhm.
if you're genuinely a caring person or kind. So all that being said, I want to start wrapping the podcast up here today. I mean, I appreciate your time tonight. I know you've had a long day. I've had a long day, and I want to talk a little bit about our event real quick, but I think once we get off here, I'd like to do what we do, and let's make a funny video for that. We can plug it in here if we want to or whatever. But let's talk a little bit about it. If you're watching it on video, we've got the graphic up right now. If not, we're having the ROI Network Builders event. We have speakers that are local, and we've actually got some folks traveling in. We've got Art Kelly, who's an author. He's a real estate agent. He has a book on friendship. We have Justin Myers coming and Corey King. They both are basically the guys who run our local investing group here called Grid. Both of them are real estate agents, but they're not there to sell you anything. When you go to their events, you're never there to get sold to. Then I've got Brooke and Rich, Brooke Collins Rayburn and Rich DeForest. They have their own networking group that meets here locally at Top Golf here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Very good people. I always talk about, I think Brooke, to me, is the example of someone that, is a great networker, because she always tells me, I don't shake hands, we hug. And she always says, hello, friend. She always calls you friend when she meets you, whether she knows you or not. You just feel welcome around her. And I think they're going to come and bring really good positive energy to our event. You got Natalie De La Torre. She's a business owner. Her and her husband own a business together. There's some things happen with that. I won't go into details, but she has her own title company. She really, truly is a person that I think people need to come and hear. She has a story from moving from California to Tennessee, not really having anybody to help her with her, growing her business and everything. It's just an incredible person. We've also got Megan Galbraith. It's funny, Megan went on Facebook last night and put it out that she's going to be speaking at the event. Several people said, hey, we're going to come, and some tickets were sold immediately. So that was a very good blessing to me. But she owns her own advertising and marketing agency, where she really focuses truly on like Instagram and social media and helping businesses build their brand. She works with really small businesses, and she's got some really big clients. Megan was inspirational in me getting started with my social media and my branding. Although my buddy Drew has been telling me for years and years, it took an outsider to say, hey, do the lives, be vulnerable. She really teaches you how to become yourself and put your message out instead of trying to fabricate something that nobody's going to listen to. We've got Charles Gorman coming. You guys have heard him on the podcast. Charles is a phenomenal person. Not only is he a great real estate agent, but he has a local networking group. They meet like the first Tuesday of every month. It's always in a local business where he supports the local business. It's in South Knoxville, which is an area that really needed revitalization. It's over near UT campus. It's in the downtown, sort of off the bridge there, just going into South Knoxville. Actually, is a place that for years was a place that just needed love and care. And he's been a huge part of helping be a messenger for that. And I truly love Charles, and Andrew likes, because he taught us a new word. He taught Andrew a new word called clustering. So when you're buying a property, you want to cluster those properties. He learned that from his mentor. Charles is going to bring some really good wisdom that day. We're going to have Henry Sanchez there. Henry's a mortgage guy, but Henry has some really good stories and things to tell you about how he's built his network and how he operates in his business. And I'm really happy to have him because he has a good backstory that he's going to bring to us. We got Jerron Mayman coming. This dude is a massive man, but he has the most kindest, humblest heart. When he came to us to do our last event, ROI, he was kind of the out of the ordinary. I had him and Roxy Lyons, a friend of mine who always comes. Roxy's kind of like a fiery guy that's positive motivational speaker. Jerron comes, and this guy who's bigger than life comes in and just talks about, being humble and just everybody's going through problems. Everybody's going through the same stuff. And so I wanted him to come. He's a wealth strategist, and he works with some really high level people in an office in downtown Knoxville, Tennessee. The thing is Jerron's going to bring a great message that day, and he's going to talk to us just a little bit about his journey and how when he was playing sports and when everybody loves you when you're on top, and then he got injured, and then, man, there was some things, and he had to just build his network. Although he has the name, he still had to go and build the network. So many people say, well, if I had the celebrity or if I had this or that, I could do things. But I think he would beg to differ with you. Just because you have celebrity doesn't mean you're going to get to be, you're not going to always be welcomed by people. The event is going to be, there's another guy, his name's Vernon Corum, coming to speak. That guy's kind of a, we all know that, he's going to come and bring his heart and talk like he talks. And, that guy would be me. And I just want to make sure that I share with everybody, because I had a little black book in my life. And, that's what we called it. We had the Rolodex back in the 90s and 2000s. Today we got our phones, and we carry our, our little black book everywhere. It's called an iPhone or an Android phone. And the thing about it is I've always been this way. I've always said we got to network and we got to market. And I've always known somebody that knows somebody. And I've always been able to connect people together and help people build their business successfully. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I think Big Drew's going to get on there with me too. And I think we're going to do a little that guy thing and do a little fun stuff too at the event. So you can go online. We'll actually, it's on Eventbrite, and it's on the ROI Facebook page. You can actually go on there, Reliable Opportunities, Investments Facebook page, and find out more information. And you can go click on the link to Eventbrite. The tickets are $20.50. No, excuse me, $20.25. And we think that's a deal.
That's the special, year 2025 deal in honor of that.
It could have been a whole lot more than that. So, anyway, you got any closing thoughts on the event, like why people should attend? You got anything? I just kind of ran through the list of people.
I mean, you're going to learn about how to build a network from gurus who know how to build networks. But more importantly, a lot of people know people, a lot of people know how to talk to people, a lot of people get to know people, but not a lot of people know how to monetize their network. And at this event, you're going to learn how to monetize your network and build profitable, reliable opportunities with your network that is going to be a long-term investment that you're also going to get your return on investment. And you're going to, you're getting a free lunch, but you're going to intermingle with people who know what they're talking about, who can improve and 10x your business. It's invaluable. There's all kinds of free ones around town, but I'm
Mhm.
telling you, everybody and their brother goes to the free ones. The reason why we're charging for this, and we're not charging a lot, honestly, $20 is like maybe going to cover the meal, if that. Um, but the reason why we're charging for this is the exclusivity. The people that are there want to be there, and it's not like any other. I mean, you've been to all kinds of free ones, and it's like there's always the guy that's like, "Oh, hey, let me tell you about that." It's not going to be like that, you know.
Right.
There's some really great high level free ones. Charles Gorman has an awesome one. He's going to be speaking there. Grid is another great one. There are some good free ones around town, but dude, we've been to some really bad ones. So, but yeah, there's multiple reasons to come to this one that are infinite.
Right. Well, I want to give a quick shout out too. I didn't bring him up in there in my little list there, but BJ Browning. It's going to be at Master Services. It's on Clinton Highway. If you live in Knoxville, Tennessee, we will have video in the future. But BJ and you have a little bit of a past history. Won't go into details on that, but I
Yeah, we
just
went to college together.
yeah,
I
and
love BJ. He's a great guy.
a good guy, and he's really truly a guy that wants to do networking. And the reason he wants to do it is at his venue, Master Dry. It's a great company. They do a lot of great work in our community. He's a sponsor, so I want to make sure I give him a shout out today. And I'm gonna let him talk for just a few minutes while we're there that day as well. But just a big shout out to Master Services for opening their facility up to us. It'll hold about 100 people, so if we sell 100 tickets, it'll be closed after we get 100 because we can't hold any more than that. And the last event had about 50 something folks there. There's always last minute folks, so if you're going to get going, you need to get your ticket now, because I've already had several people saying, "Hey, I'm coming." And the thing is we've not pubbed it like we're about to. I mean, we got about 14 days or so to really pub it, and so we're going
Yeah.
to really be making a marketing push to pub it in the next 14 days. And we're hoping for a sellout this time. It'll be great, but if we don't, it'll be good. I just want the people who want to be there. So I want people to show up that want to be there. But anyway, guys, today this is our episode of the Reliable Opportunity Podcast. And as I always say, love everybody and leave a legacy. Drew, do you got anything to add tonight as we exit this podcast?
No, let's just make this the best year so far. Make this the best year you've ever had. Make this, what better way to start off 2025 than putting into action all the things that you said you was going to do last year by getting together with high level experts and networking with people that can make your 2025 awesome. Uh, Do not pass up on it.
Great. Well, guys, that's our episode this evening. We love you and we want to hear from you. Please go check out our Facebook page and check out our social media. Like it, comment, interact with us. We have so many people that, that when we put things out, we want to make sure that you're participating in this, because, this isn't just something we decide to sit down one day and say, "Hey, let's have a cool name and a cool podcast." We truly do want to help people. So thanks for listening tonight, and peace out, and love everybody, and leave a legacy.